Okay, so how are you feeling now? And what do you think is going to happen next? All right, well, let's find out. We will pick up with Chapter 15, A Sea of Regret. It worked! Amaya shouted. Inez smiled, though it was hard to see it. The water was whipping her hair around like the wind on a blustery day. Amaya's too. On land, Amaya never got to enjoy that feeling. Per her mother's instructions, her father usually kept her hair braided up tight so it didn't get too tangled. Amaya closed her eyes to soak it in. It was glorious. I hope so, Inez said. Thank you. Amaya opened her eyes. Don't thank me. We should thank... Amaya turned to thank the Ancient One. The Ancient One was gone. No matter how Amaya strained her eyes, all she could see was seagrass stirring in the current where the Ancient One had been. Thank you, Amaya said to the grass, hoping the Ancient One would feel it. The water moved even harder. Amaya wanted to stay and savor the feeling of the change, but she could feel time moving in the water. We should go, she said. I don't think there's much time left to find the dark water. Inez nodded, and the two of them swam out through the coral and into the open water beyond. The water moved more in some directions than in others. They thought that where it moved most was probably where the change was coming from, so they went that way, traveling against the current. Amaya was grateful for the trick Ari had taught her. It let her move against the current with ease. She'd tried to get Inez to learn the same trick. Inez watched for a second, then shook her head. Just watch me, Amaya said brightly. You'll get it. Amaya slowed down and tried to make her fin movements slow and easy to see. Surely now Inez would be curious enough to try it if she saw it. But if Inez was curious about the new way Amaya moved her fins, she didn't show it. In fact, she seemed happy to keep swimming the harder way, even though she had to puff and plash to keep up. The water got hazier the further they went. Amaya thought it might be because the water was stirring up sediment and tiny creatures. I wonder what it all is, Amaya said, imagining thousands of microscopic creatures swimming alongside them. Inez shrugged and kept swimming without comment, and even more baffling to Amaya, the pearl of Inez's curiosity didn't glow any brighter or move any faster. There was so much happening around them. How could she not be curious? Something slivered past Amaya's belly. An eel. Amaya screamed, even though the eel kept going, finding its own way through the grass back into the coral beyond. She hadn't seen it coming in the haze, and something about the way its skin felt brushing against hers locked her in a panic. It's just looking for prey, Amaya told herself. We're not prey. That's why it left. She knew that was true in her head, but she couldn't stop her heart from beating wildly, and she couldn't make herself keep swimming. Stupid fear, Amaya grumbled. She hated having it so close to her chest. She wanted to set it free again, but with the water moving as fast as it was, she didn't dare. She might never find it again. Inez looked puzzled but didn't say anything. She just waited for Amaya to collect her nerves. I guess I'm not used to having my fear so close, Amaya explained. Don't humans have it all the time? You'll need it when you go back to your family, Inez said matter-of-factly. I'm not human, Amaya said. Her words gave her fins a surge of energy, and she started swimming again. I'm a water child, like you. Inez changed the subject. Tell me more about your family, she said. I already told you about mine, Amaya said. Tell me about yours, Amaya said. But she knew it was the wrong thing to say, even before she finished saying it. I don't remember my former family, Inez said soberly. Le Guin is the closest thing to a family I have, and she doesn't count because she's nice to everybody. Amaya didn't regret asking Inez about her family, even though it made her sad. She was actually glad she asked because now she understood. Now it was no wonder Inez wanted to hear about Amaya's family so much. And it was no wonder Inez said she hated the study circles, but followed them and watched them all the time. She didn't hate them. She wanted to know what it was like to be with them. The more Amaya thought about it, the more she realized that all Inez wanted was to be a part of something. Inez didn't have a group of her own, not even in school. Amaya couldn't imagine what that was like. She just knew it was sad. Sadder than she wanted to think about. So instead, Amaya sighed and tried to think of another story about her family. After all, Amaya's family was the only thing Inez seemed curious about. Maybe that was a good thing. Amaya had to think hard. Her family was so ordinary. Eventually, she started in on little things that weren't really stories at all. She told Inez about waffles on Sundays. Amaya's father preferred pancakes, but Amaya liked the way the butter and syrup filled the waffle squares, so her father made waffles instead. She told Inez about winning swim meets and collecting shells and lots of other ordinary things that made up Amaya's life on land. And even when she started to run out of those kinds of stories, Amaya kept going because she saw that the longer she talked about her life on land, the more Inez's pearl flickered and glowed. That didn't happen when Amaya talked about the things that made her curious, like phytoplankton, bioluminescence, and how exactly dorsal fins worked. But Inez lit up about Amaya walking to school with her father, even when Amaya complained that he never let her go on her own. Inez ignored that part and asked about the tiniest details, like whether or not they held hands, and if they did their shadows hold hands too? And no matter how long or short Amaya's answer was, Inez soaked it in until Amaya realized that the glow of Inez's pearl was exactly what was lighting their way. That's when Amaya realized what she had to do. Amaya knew all about the joys of having a family who loved you. Inez deserved to know that too. I'm going to go back on land, she declared. Okay, Inez said. Inez tried to sound brave, but it didn't work. Amaya could hear the sadness in her voice. You should come with me, Amaya said. Me? How? Why? My parents would love you, Amaya said. And I think it would make you happy. We don't have to go, though. We're a study circle now. We should stay here. No, Inez shrieked, throwing her arms around Amaya's shoulders with glee. I was so scared that you wouldn't go back to your family, but I never dreamed that if you did go back, you would take me with you. I would love to see what it's like to have a real family, even if it's not mine. Do you really think I could come with you? I know you could, Amaya said. All you have to do is swallow your pearl and throw your necklace on shore, right? We'll do it together." Inez squeezed her again. The water had gotten so hazy that she couldn't exactly see the look on Inez's face, but she was sure Inez was grinning. To be truthful, Amaya wasn't quite ready to go home. Home would always be there, but this, the sea, was now. Even swimming against the current in the dim water, she had never felt more happy or free. She'd made a bargain with a sea witch, convinced an ancient oyster to give her magic, fixed her friend's curiosity, and figured out a way for her new friend to have a family so she wouldn't feel so alone. Not to mention all the creatures she had seen that she never would have thought existed. When she first got here, she couldn't even tell the difference between a water child and a mermaid, for goodness sake. She'd already learned so much, and it was so much more than she'd wished for when she asked to swim in the sea. A perfect time to go home. That's why. Even Amaya didn't understand why. As the water got darker and more ominous by the moment, what she was really afraid of was the feeling that maybe she was making a mistake. Inez squeezed her hand tight. "The dark water is close. I can feel the sadness. Can't you?" Amaya nodded her head. Even though the water was so dark and cloudy, Inez couldn't see it. They were definitely making their way toward a feeling. Amaya wouldn't have called it sadness, though. More of a nothing feeling. Like if you knew for sure that no one would ever celebrate your birthday again. The feeling was like, not sad exactly, but nothing to look forward to. The feeling was like that, but just not about birthdays, about everything, everywhere. Hopeless. "Remember not to open your mouth when you see it," Inez cheerily rattled off instructions as they went deeper into the dark. "The last thing you want to do is swallow someone else's regret. Who knows what kinds of troubles they've had? We can use my window pane to catch yours. That way, if a bunch of them come up to you, we can sift the wrong ones out before you open your mouth." That's when they heard the moaning. It was coming from the haziest part of the gloom. A thick cloud in the water, spinning out jets of water, including the one Amaya and Inez had followed. "That's not the dark water," Amaya said. "No," Inez said. "It's sea foam." "That's sea foam?" Amaya strained her eyes to look closer. There were shapes in the cloud, but none of them stayed for long. Sometimes the shape looked human. Sometimes it looked like a water child. Sometimes it looked like an octopus or a dolphin or a squid. They all struggled to hold their shapes for a second or two, but then fell back into the mass. When they did, a wisp of them floated away and bubbled up to the surface. The fear in Amaya's pendant pulsed in time with her heart. "What's happening?" Amaya grabbed hold of the pendant, hoping it would quiet the pulsing. It only made it louder. "They broke their promise with the sea. I knew I could feel sadness. I didn't know it was this." Amaya wanted to cry. They looked so helpless. She clutched her pendant and tried to let the tears flow when, suddenly, the foamy mass split and a light came barreling out of the darkness inside it. Inez moved quickly, opening the window pane in front of Amaya's mouth before the pearl of light could fly into it. The force of it cracked Inez's window pane, but the pearl was still trapped inside. Amaya recognized it immediately. It was her regret. The moaning got louder, and this time there was no hint of laughter in the cries. "You did it! Let's go!" But Amaya didn't move. She saw something in the darkness when the sea foam parted. A swish of puffy red hair. Ari. All right. What do you think they should do? All right. Okay, well, that is where we're going to stop for now. If you have time for another one, you know what to do. And if not, I'll see you next time.